Yes, I grew up right down the road here
And
on
right
a
up-
farm.
A farm?
My father had a farm, yes. Vegetable garden.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, and when were you born?
1924, October 18.
So, starting in the later 30s, what was your opinion on Germany's expansion throughout Europe? Did you know much about it? Was it?
Well, I used to listen to my father complain about the war because he was in World War One. So he knew what was going on. And we used to listen to the radio. What was that priest's name? Father Coughlin. He used to have an afternoon talk, and all he talked about was the Nazis. So we knew about what was going on when I was pretty young. That was before Pearl Harbor.
Did they seem like a threat at all to the United
Yes,
States?
they did. Yeah.
And what did you think of Japan? Did you perceive them as a threat comparable to Germany?
Did I see what?
Japan as a threat to...
No, I didn't even know about Japan. No, we didn't even know where Pearl Harbor was when it was bombed.
That actually leads me to the next question. December 7th, 1941. What was that day like for you?
Like any other day. I didn't know what Pearl Harbor was.
How old were you when Pearl Harbor happened?
In 41, I was 16.
Going back to Pearl Harbor, what was the general mood like that day after it happened, after you heard the news? Was that just a whole mood shift for everyone?
Oh, yeah. We have to go and, like it says in the sign, kill those bastards.
So, when did you realize that you were going to war? Was it right after Pearl Harbor?
Yes. Well, I was still in high school then, but I knew it was coming.
And you got drafted. What was that like?
Actually, it was kind of a relief because I didn't want to see my buddies going in, and I didn't. So when I got drafted, I figured I'm going to go too and do my part.
You drafted in early 1942 then?
43,
1943.
May 17th.
So getting to boot camp, what was your boot camp experience like? Did you think you were trained properly, or was the sense of urgency too great?
It was an urgency, but I thought it was fairly easy, but a lot of the guys thought it was pretty tough because we were crawling around on their hands and face in the fleas, a lot of fleas down there. It was in the Air Corps.
The Air Corps?
Yeah. Yeah, we used to load the 50 caliber ammunition on the planes, but I only did that for a couple of months, and then they made me staff sergeant, and then they put me in charge of the transit people.
Really?
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, I didn't know too much about the Air Corps. Can you tell me more about it?
The Air Corps?
Yeah.
Well, they serviced the planes, and that's what we did with the ammunition. And the 100-pound bombs was the biggest ones we had.
And by this point, is it later 1943? Is it early 1944?
44, yeah.
44. So, the war ended in 45, but in 1944, did it feel like it was coming to a close at all, or is it still running?
Oh, yeah. Well, after Hitler was killed or died, that was in 45, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. He died in 45, and in May of 45, we were put on a ship back to the United States. And we thought we were going to go back and regroup and go back again because the Japs were still upset. But we didn't. We stayed at Cherry Point, North Carolina. That's an Air Force base.
And that was in May of 1945?
Yeah. That's where I wound up for 6 months in charge of transit personnel again.
And how did the Japanese fight?
How did they?
Yeah.
Viciously. I've seen heads on sticks in the ground. I got pictures of them if you want to see them. They were vicious fighters.
Do you remember? Oh, sorry, continue.
Well, they were taught not to surrender, because we would kill them if they surrendered, which wasn't true.
On the day that Japan surrendered, what was that day like for everyone around you?
Oh, we had a hell of a time. Everybody was hollering and screaming. It's all over. Go back home.
Did you know that the bombs had been dropped, or did you just hear?
Oh yeah, we heard the bomb was dropped, yeah. They sent us home. I was home a few months. Get a phone call from a colonel from the Marine Corps who wanted me to go back in. I said, I'm getting married in a month. Can't go back. And he says, well, think it over. We'll give you an extra stripe. We'll put you back in the Corps. I said, no thanks. I've had enough of it. So they didn't bother me anymore after that.
Were you familiar with General MacArthur? He was the general of the Pacific, right?
Yeah, I never saw him. I guess he was okay, but like I said, I never actually saw him. Only from what I heard and what everybody else heard and saw. He was a little bit arrogant near the end there. And,
heard that too.
Yeah. And Truman finally had to fire him, right? But he may have been right too. Like General Patton said, got to go into Russia, but they didn't do that either. And now we're fighting with Russia through Ukraine, which I think is a big mistake. Don't forget we got Ukraine, Germany, England, God knows how many other countries are fighting Russia right now. And they're not going to get anywhere.
You don't think so?
No. They forget that Russia really did a lot in World War II. They pushed the Germans right out of their country. Talk about not giving up. Russia won't give up. That's my opinion.
What lessons would you like younger generations of Americans to know?
I wish they would teach them how to behave themselves, do what they're told, have a little discipline, a little respect for people. I think you agree with me there. They have no respect for anything or anybody. They throw things away that are still good. And we never threw anything away.
What is one thing you wish people knew about the Pacific Theater?
Well, you mean like the climate? Like the flies? But I think...
anything at all, really.
Well, you could hardly eat anything without eating flies. But I think that was because of so many dead bodies disintegrating on the ground. The flies everywhere.
How do you think we can get future generations to come to remember World War II?
Teach them in school. Tell them in school what happened. They don't know. Most of the kids don't even know what World War II means. A friend of ours had, what was she, a clerk in the office? And she didn't know who the hell dropped the bomb on Pearl Harbor. She thought the Japs did. You know, it's simple things like that they don't teach the kids in school. They don't know anything about it. They should reinstate the draft. They should make everybody go in for at least a year just to get some discipline and find out what the hell organization is about.
Before we conclude the interview, is there anything you'd like to say about the war or anything in general?
Well, I hope we served well I hope it meant something to most people, but I got a feeling it didn't mean anything to a lot of people.
But it's not becoming
No.
because generation.
I think for now that concludes most of my questions. I wanted to thank you for doing this and thank you for your service.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'd do it again if I could, but I don't think they'll let me.
They might take you. I think you're in just as good a shape as some of these young guys.
Probably.